Hi guys, it's a part 2. Are you ready for this? So I was having a look through Instagram today and I noticed that amazing creator Spacey Cat, who you might know from Horizon Worlds for making Puzzle Paradise, incredible creator, but she spotted that there was actually something hidden in the FBX export when you take your world out of Horizon Worlds. I didn't spot this when I was doing this before, so I'm going to try and make good on that. So here's the part 2, which is going to save you guys a bit of time and effort on manually colouring your world in. Hi, I'm the Three-Eyed Tiger. Welcome to the channel. Here you'll find tutorials, guides, and a look at life inside the metaverse across many different platforms. A lot of you already have a headset, but I want to teach you skills that you never knew you had, and show you places and communities that you probably never knew existed. You've probably seen a lot of content from journalists and influencers who honestly have no idea what amazing things people like you and I are actually doing in here. This is the other side of that story. I spent the last several years actually inside these platforms, building worlds, running social hubs, and figuring things out the hard way. And I want to share everything I've learned with you. So stick around and follow me. There's a lot to explore and I'm really glad you're here. Okay, so as I said before, in my last tutorial a week ago, I mistakenly said that it didn't export the tints and colours with your FBX. I'm a big liar. It does, but it kind of hides it down in the attributes of each object. So what I'm going to try and take you through today is a really great way of extracting that information and assigning it as an albedo base colour to a material, which will allow us then to actually export that directly into Unity with all the colour information. Amazing, right? So there is a bit to it, so stay tuned. Let's move on. Okay, so as we covered in the last tutorial, you basically have to export your world from Horizons. We won't dwell too much on the stuff we covered in depth on the last one, but yeah. So remember to export geometry. Also do tick the export textures option. I would do that. I haven't tried it without, but I would just take that anyway. Okay. Let's give it a suitable name. So of course this is one of my first worlds called Zen. So I'm going to call it Zen. We're going to save it out to a directory. Remember where you save it, because we'll need to grab it in just a moment. Okay, let's just check that it actually saved. I have tried some complaints that occasionally it fails to export, but just confirm that. Okay, and the next thing you're gonna need to do if you haven't already got it installed, go and grab the latest version of Blender. This is really important for the next step, and I'll guide you through it. I know a lot of people find Blender very, very scary, but don't worry, we got you covered. Okay, once you've downloaded and installed Blender, this is just the generic new Blender file screen that you'll get with a camera and an object and a light. I want you to hit the A key. When you put your mouse hover over that main view, hit the A key. And then once you've hit the A key, I want you to hit the delete key. And that will just get rid of all objects. You can confirm that just at the top right. You should see the scene collection, the collection below it, but no actual objects below it. So once we're cleared, we're ready to import our world. So if you go into the file option at the top, head over to import, and then you'll see this FBX. So if you click that, then opens up the file browser. So we use the file browser to go to where we saved the file. There, if you select the file and then hit the import FBX button, it should import our file. But oh no, you see it's grey. Yeah, it is. Don't worry, we're getting to it. So the next thing I'd like you to do is head on over to the address at the top there. So tinyurl.com/Horizon Export. So that's, I'll put the link in the description for the video actually as well. Just so you don't have to type that out. But that's a script that I wrote earlier today, via an AI of course, which, what it does is it reads all the data attributes out of each object. And then it creates some suitably named materials. and then it assigns those materials to the objects and sets their base colours accordingly. So it's pretty cool. What it'll do is it'll almost like create a distinct list of all the different colours that you use in your scene, and then create a separate material for each of them and assign them back to the original objects that had that colour. So there's quite a lot going on in here. So yeah, what I want you to do is to, as indicated, hit that little copy to clipboard button in the middle. So that's actually going to copy that script into your clipboard. And then if we go back to Blender, head to the scripting tab across the top. Okay, and then hit the new button. So we're going to create a new script window just here in the middle. And once you've done that, I want you to paste that script in. So it's, in fact, well, the script, it's less than 300 lines, but if you have a little look through it, it's always good to see what it's doing. Always have a look through scripts before you run them, for sure. Just make sure they seem sensible. And then really, once you've done that, hit the play button at the top. There. Just a word of warning, if it does nothing, it might be because you've deselected objects. Make sure that you've got all the objects that you're applying this to. That is generally a good thing to do when you're running a script. It will use your selection usually, so. Okay, so once you run it, that'll take like a few seconds. And then you should notice that your scene has been recolored. Now, there's quite a lot still of grey in the scene here because we're zoomed out, and a lot of the mountains in the scene were actually different shades of grey. So that's okay, but you can see the reds and the pinks and the greens in there. And we'll have a little look closer up in just a second. So the next thing you need to do is go into the File menu, and then you go to Export and Export FBX. And then you give it a suitable name. Now you can see down the bottom, I'm not going to overwrite the original file. I'm going to call it Zen_color. Okay? And then we hit Export FBX there. Now, some of these sections we're going to skip through quite quickly because we did cover it on the last video. But basically you need to go back to the project you created on the last video and just open it. And you'll probably remember that you had your world file in there, and I need you to really delete that now because that'll be grey, and we're gonna basically pull in a fresh one. So once you've deleted that file from the hierarchy on the left-hand side, that's really important. I need you to now go get your Zen color or whatever you call it and drag it into the assets window down the bottom. Now I've put it in the mesh folder just to be well organized, but once it's in there, you can then drag that into the hierarchy, and then that will actually open it up in the scene for you so you can see it. There. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is down the bottom, we're going to go and click on that world that we imported, the mesh that we imported. And when we click that, we're going to go up to the Inspector tab at the top right. There's a little Extract Materials button there. I need you to click that. This is going to help us really easily manage the materials here. We'll get to have a look at them in just a moment. Okay. So when we click the Export button, we'll be prompted for an output folder. So you'll notice we're in the Assets folder. And because we're using the project we created before, there is already a Materials folder there. If there isn't one there, just create it. And then if you just double click in it, and then you hit the sort of the button at the bottom right, whatever that is, OK. And then the next thing you'll see when you look in your assets folder is it's actually pushed all the different materials in use across the scene. And these are the ones we created via that script in Blender, which is really cool. And they've got pretty good names, like you can see sort of blue tones and greens and green tones. But you can see all the different distinct tones that we've used across the map. And that's great because that makes what we're about to do really easy. So, if you select all the materials in that materials folder that we just extracted, okay, and you can do that by clicking in there and pressing Ctrl and A, or just shift selecting, or however you want to do it, loads of ways. And once you've selected them all, just work your way up to the inspector at the top, and you'll notice we've got that standard Unity shader up there. We don't really want that. That's not going to work well on mobile. And because this is quite a simple primitive map, it was designed to run on mobile, so let's do this. So if we change that to standard light, so we do that by clicking on the word standard, and then that'll pop up a little dialogue. And you can type in standard light at the top and it'll find it, but if you want to go through the menus, you can click VRChat and mobile and then standard light. That also works. Once you've clicked that, you'll notice that the color tones are a lot more vivid because the standard light shader is made for mobile. It's a lot clearer and it's going to be closer to what you remember in Horizon Worlds. So that's great. We'll skim through this. Okay, this is how to set collision mesh colliders across the map, just so you don't pull through it. We did cover this through the video, but again, open up your Zen object, or Zen color as it were in the hierarchy. Just select all these sort of numbered objects there. They're all the individual meshes. Once you've shift selected all those, you just go to the Add Component menu on the right hand side, and then you find yourself into adding a mesh collider, which you do by just typing in the word collider and it pops up. Just select collider, mesh collider, I'm sorry. Okay. The other thing as well that's a good idea to do is set it to static. That means that the objects don't move. That's going to give the game engine a much better time, and especially when it comes to lighting later. Static is good. Okay. Also, remember we had to move the spawn point. Now, you may not have to do that this time around if this isn't a new project, but you just select the VRC world option at the top left and just move it to wherever you want players to spawn in. And then we run and test. So you can see there when we run and test it, we can see this world is it's coloured. This is amazing, you can actually see it. And run around it as we did before. But yeah, that's good. That's basically saved us a whole lot of work now manually assigning those colours. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is simply upload it. So if you remember from last time, we just have to go to the VRChat SDK menu at the top, go to Show Control Panel, and that'll make the panel appear. Now, it should already be logged in because it will remember your credentials from last time where you entered your username and password. So it shouldn't ask you that again. It might do from time to time, but not every time. So yeah, we simply just make sure that we publish it as an Android and Windows, if you remember how we did that down the bottom. And then we wait a few minutes and we're done. That is it. That's the process. Okay, so that's the end of the tutorial, guys. I hope that was helpful in some way. And I'm sorry I left you guys a bit in a lurch there, under the impression that you had to manually recolor everything. That was, of course, as it turns out, not true. It just wasn't straightforward. So I hope that's helpful. Please do spread the word, spread this video. There's going to be lots of people who are going to need this advice. I hope that script is useful to you as well. Hope you're saving a little bit of work. But yeah, enjoy. See you soon.